Kids! Welcome to our lesson for today. So, remember, last time we talked about how Jeremiah continued to spread God's message even when the people were angry at him, even when everyone was unhappy with him, even when no one liked the message. He still continued to tell the people about God's message. So they took him and put him in prison, and he still told the message. So then they took him and threw him down a well, but God sent someone to rescue him. So we learned that God will always fight for us when we're spreading his message. So let's see what happened next to the people of Judah.
So finally, Jeremiah's words came true, and the people of Babylon were attacking King Zedekiah. And when King Zedekiah heard this, he quickly ran to Jeremiah and told him, please, tell me what God's word says. I want to know the truth.
Yes, so Zedekiah went and he begged for the truth from Jeremiah. But Jeremiah looked at him and said, if I tell you God's message, you will have me killed, and you will not listen to God's message. But Zedekiah begged and he said, please tell me God's message. I promise that you will be safe. I promise you will be safe. Just tell me God's message. So then Jeremiah told Zedekiah God's message, and he said, give in to Babylon. Do not fight them. Do not attack them. When they come to attack the city, just give up. But Zedekiah was scared because he didn't know what the people in Babylon would do to him. So when he told Jeremiah this, Jeremiah said, God promises that if you give up and give in to Babylon, then you will be safe. But if you continue to attack them and if you try to escape, you will not be safe. But again, Zedekiah refused to listen to God's message. He ignored it. He didn't listen to it. He did not want to listen to Jeremiah, so he didn't. And instead of giving up, he went on to fight against Babylon.
So for 2 years, the Babylonian army attacked Jerusalem and they attacked their walls, and finally they broke down the walls and they entered. And when King Zedekiah saw this, he was afraid and he ran and went and he wanted to get out of the city using a back way. But he was caught and he did not go out of the city.
Yes, so when King Zedekiah was caught, remember, God said, if you try to run away, which is what Zedekiah did, he ran away and tried to get out of the city in a back door. But when he was caught, he was told that he was not going to be safe and he was going to suffer. So what happened is Babylon took him and they put him in chains and they took him to Babylon, and that is where he died. He died in Babylon when he was blind. He couldn't see anything and he was in chains. He was a prisoner. Now, back in Jerusalem, remember, the walls had been broken down, and when the Babylonians entered the city, they burnt down God's temple where the people used to go and worship. They burnt down the temple. Then they burnt down the palace where King Zedekiah used to live. And then they burnt down the houses of all of the rich people of Jerusalem. And then the people who are living in Jerusalem, they were taken. All of the people of Judah were taken, and they were taken away from their homes, and they were taken all the way to Babylon. And only the very, very poor people were left behind. Jeremiah decided that he was going to stay with the poor people. So, because the king and the people of Judah refused to listen to God's message, over and over again, they ignored all of God's prophets, then they ignored all of God's messages. And because of this, they would not live in their home for many, many years. They would be away from their homes.
So, our lesson today teaches us that we ought to obey God's word even when we are afraid, even when we don't know how to. We should obey, because if we don't, bad things will happen to us.
Yes, so always obey God. And to remind us of this lesson of obedience, because remember we said if you obey, good things will happen. If you disobey, bad things will happen. So to remind us of this, we're going to sing a song. So everyone stand up and help us sing this song. Okay, kids, it's time to sing our song. Now, we've just learned about how when we disobey God, there are bad consequences. But when we obey God, everything will be fine and we will always be safe. So now I want you to stand up and help us sing this song that I know you know, that says obedience is the best thing to show that you believe. So stand up and help us sing this song. Obedience is the very best thing to show that you believe. Obedience is the very best thing to show that you believe. Obedience. Obedience is the very best thing to show that you believe. Obedience is the very best thing to show that you believe. Obedience is the very best thing to show that you believe. Obedience. Obedience is the very best thing to show that you believe. Obedience is the very best thing to show that you believe. Obedience is the very best thing to show that you believe. Obedience. Obedience is the very best thing to show that you believe. To show that you believe. To show that you believe. Yeah! Okay, it's time for us to do our craft. Now, we've just talked about how Jerusalem was finally attacked by Babylon and how Babylon destroyed the walls of the city of Jerusalem, came into the city, burnt down the temple, burnt down the palace, and burnt down the houses of the rich people. Then took the people of Jerusalem captive, took them away from their home, and took them all the way to Babylon. And this all happened because the people in Jerusalem, the people of Judah, refused to obey God. So to remember this, we are going to make the walls of Jerusalem, and then these walls are also going to be falling down, because that is what happened. There were walls that were standing, and then the walls of Jerusalem came tumbling down. So we are going to need different pieces of manila paper, and then we have these pieces of paper that we've cut into a small rectangular shape that we've colored, and these are going to be the bricks that we're going to use to make our wall. So first thing I need to do is I need you to write down what the lesson for today is. So take your card, then take a pen, and write down 2 Kings chapter 25, because that is where we find this story of how Jerusalem was defeated by Babylon. So 2 Kings 25. And this is where we find the story. And what we learn from the story is that we should always obey God. So next, write down, always obey God. We need to always obey God, because disobedience has bad consequences. So always obey God. Disobedience has bad consequences. And this means when you do something bad and you disobey God, bad things can happen. So disobedience has bad consequences. Okay, now that we've written down what our lesson is and where we can find it, we need to make our walls. So take glue and all of these tiny pieces of bricks that we made, and we are going to make our walls. So at the beginning, we're going to stack up our walls properly, because in the beginning the walls were standing. So take the bricks and stack them in a nice neat line at the beginning. Okay, so once we're done stacking them at the beginning, nicely and neatly, the next line that we do, remember the walls are crumbling. So we need to have the pieces of blocks that are falling down. So the wall won't be straight all the way, it's going to start falling down. So let's make our wall fall down. So these blocks are not straight. Some of them are diagonal, some of them will break, some of them are falling down. So as you continue sticking them falling down, you can even cut the pieces of paper that you have as blocks. You can cut them down so that it looks like as the wall falls, the stones, the bricks that are used to make the wall begin to break. So we're going to do this until we have a wall that is completely broken down on one side. So on this side, they are nice and they are strong, but on the other side, they are broken down. So now whenever you look at this picture, you'll see and remember how the walls of Jerusalem were broken down and destroyed by the people of Babylon, because the people of Jerusalem, the people of Judah, refused to listen and obey God's message. So finish putting down your broken rocks. And then we have finished our craft. So one thing I want you to add at the top is I need you to write the walls of Jerusalem fell down. So at the very top where we've written our lesson for today, we need to write the walls of Jerusalem were brought down by Babylon. So whenever we look at this card of ours, we'll remember what happened in Jerusalem. So because of their disobedience, the walls of Jerusalem were brought down by Babylon. Okay? So this has been our craft for today, and this has also been our lesson for today. So next time we'll see what happens to the people who have been taken away to Babylon. So until next time, bye.